I flew yesterday from Atlanta to Tucson. You can tell I'm in a different setting today. Anyway, this is the second time in my lifetime, because I fly a lot and I usually try and get an emergency row. This is the second time in my life I've had a flight attendant come to me and you know, they always do the normal, you realize you're in emergency rows, please look at me and audibly say yes, 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 you're willing to help in case of an emergency. And they're like, read this card so you know what the fuck to do if there's an issue. And I always do, like I don't read the card, but I look at the window and I try and figure out, okay, if it's up to me, what lever do I have to pull to get that thing open? Like I'm always like, trust me, you want to be sitting next to me if shit goes wrong. Anyway, he walks over. And he gives me this extra explanation. He says, that door there. And I said, yeah. He says, here's what I'm going to need from you. And I go, okay. And he goes, if we need you, he says, you're going to look out the window because there's like this people. And he goes, and I'm going to yell, is it clear? And you're going to need to say clear, not clear. I go, okay. And then he says, then you flip that, you lift that, and the door sort of takes off on its own. Like it deactivates on its own and the slide opens. And I go, okay. He goes, but don't touch anything until I tell you to. And I said, okay. And he goes, don't touch anything. Like, don't touch anything unless I say so. And I go, okay. Like, do I look like the type of person that's going to try and open an emergency door mid-flight? But whatever. But I thought, well, that was weird. That was weird that he gave me all the extra instruction. I really appreciate, because I never would have thought about looking out the window and making sure everything was clear. I would have just grabbed for the fucking handle and thrown the door open. I wouldn't have. Anyway. This is the second time a flight attendant has done this with such specificity. And it's a little scary. And I'm thinking maybe once upon a time, this guy had an incident and the person sitting there didn't know what to do. And so now he wants to make damn sure before this plane leaves the ground that he can count on me. And I was like, I got you, dude. I'm here. But it reminds me of this other story. And I think I made a video about this years and years and years and years and years ago. I was traveling on a very, very small, almost, I want to say this flight had like propellers. It was tiny. And it was going from Atlanta to, I don't know, Mobile or Montgomery or someplace in Alabama, Tuscaloosa, one of those places with a very small airport. Anyway, it was not a full flight. There's one flight attendant, and it's one of those planes that has literally like one seat on one side and two on the other. It's tiny, and it's not full. I get on and I'm like row like 12 out of 14 or something, like I'm in the back. If there's four of us that are in what I would constitute as the back half of the plane, right? So the flight attendant, she's up front and she does her whole, put this on, here's how you fasten the belt, here's what happens, and she's doing this and she's doing this and she finishes. Then she comes down the aisle and she's serious as shit. Like I'm not kidding. She comes down the aisle and there's a woman sitting 2 seats in front of me, older woman who is a wheelchair user. She's is incapacitated. Like once they brought her on and sat her in that chair, she can't get out without help. So the flight attendant comes down the aisle and there's 3 of us. Next to me across the aisle is this guy, and I've described him as like Jason Kelsey-esque, like big, burly, bearded lumberjack. Like I'd say lumberjack because he was wearing like a flannel across the aisle. And then there was another guy, businessman, behind him. But it's such a small plane that you're like literally within arm's reach of each other. She comes back and she smiles at the woman and she walks right past her and she goes, you 3. And we're like, yes, ma'am. And she points at Jason Kelsey and she's like, you. She's like, if there's an incident, you, sir, are responsible for getting her off this plane. And she points at the little lady. And the little old lady's like, and I'm not kidding. The little old lady turns around in her seat and she goes, thank you very much, sir. And then she says, you 2. And she points at me and businessman and we're like, yes. Are responsible for getting that door open and making sure he can get her out. And we kind of look at each other and we're like, okay. And then she turns and walks away. And I thought, well, that was specific. Lumberjack Kelsey across the aisle turns to me and he's kind of horrified. And I said, that's a lot of responsibility, man. It's like, she called you out. You have to lift up that little lady and carry her off this plane. Like that's a lot of responsibility, because usually I envision when a plane goes down, it's every fucking man for himself. So when you've been told, don't even think about it. You take her, you carry her, throw her over your shoulder like a bag of fucking potatoes and you get her off this plane. That's a lot of pressure. So I look at him because he's ready to cross out for me and I go, dude, that's a lot of pressure. And he says, I know. And I said, imagine if you'd have said no. And he's like, I didn't feel like I could say no. He was literally frightened. So as we're chit-chatting, the guy from behind leans forward, because again, we're all so close, you can literally, like, all touch each other. He touches both of our arms and he leans forward and he's like, do you think she knows something we don't know? Like, something's going wrong, right? Like, does she know something we don't know? And all of a sudden I'm thinking, well, I didn't think that until you fucking said it. So this plane is taking off, and I'm not kidding you. We're all like white knuckled, like the entire time it was taking off, because we thought, does she know something we don't know? Like, is this plane in some sort of jeopardy? Anyway, yesterday's flight attendant was much calmer about it when he's like, look through the window, tell me it's clear, don't do anything until I tell you to touch. And I said, okay. It's a plane full of people going home for Christmas. I can't fuck this up. I know. A lot of responsibility for someone like me who doesn't like people.